Welcome to Chasing Hard Podcast, where we talk about trusting God when life doesn't turn out the way you planned. If you've been alive for any amount of time, then you have encountered at least one time when things went awry, when things did not turn out the way you planned. It could be big, it could be small, it could be somewhere in between, it could be life changing. But one thing for sure, you can bet on. If you were a betting person and you wanted to place money on this, is life doesn't always turn out the way we plan. And so what as a follower of Christ, what do we do when that happens? What how do you reconcile trusting God for the various things that you're believing for and they don't go that way? It goes a different way. And if you've tuned into the podcast, you have heard various guests talk about things they encountered. And you've heard me talk about it as well because, hey, it looks like I don't have a guest again today. I'm working on a few guests. I didn't envision it being quite this difficult when I first started, but I'm trusting God. And this podcast didn't turn out quite the way I planned, but I keep hearing from you guys, and so I will keep doing it. Today, today is a little bit of a lighthearted, didn't turn out the way I planned story that I want to share. But it was a big deal at the time. As you know, my younger son Luke lives in across the country, lives in California. I live in Kentucky. And as you know too, I'm sure that I love to drive. Like, tell me tomorrow that I'm gonna spend all day, all weekend driving someplace. I'm in. I am totally in. I'm the driver. I will do the driving. Occasionally, I will need like a 30-minute break. Usually it's only once a day, just because my caffeine pill didn't kick in in a timely way. Yes, I do participate in stay awake or no doze or whatever. Usually a half, and then I'll take another half if necessary. And usually it's necessary, but I love to drive. And so when my son from California informed me several weeks ago that he was going to propose to his girlfriend, he invited us to the engagement party on that very day in California. And so, absolutely, the answer is I will be there. So, we set about to make the plans. And we've done the California drive several times, more than I can keep count of now. And it looks a little bit like this: two 14-hour days and a 5-hour day. And that will get us from my home, Kentucky, to his home in San Luis Obispo, California. And it usually works really, really well. One thing, because of the time of year, you got to look at the weather. There are a few different ways to get there. And my favorite way is going through Colorado and Utah. Just the beauty of those two states on that particular route amazes me every time. Driving is sort of a spiritual event for me because I can put in my headphones, only one, so I can be alert and aware of what's going on around me. And I can listen to worship music or podcast. And then the worship music that allows me just to praise and worship God as I'm driving down the road. Usually we leave when it's dark, the passengers are asleep, and it's just me and God, and it's a spiritual event for me. I love it. And so we usually leave at around 3 in the morning to get several hours out of the way before daylight. Just makes me feel, I don't know. I don't like to be driving a long time after sunset. that seems longer. I'm tired. I'm more tired at the end of the day. And so getting up early, leaving early is the thing for me to do. It gives me several hours just to commune with God, to pray, and then to enjoy the beauty of the sunrise and to be grateful for all the things that He has created and to be amazed at the different landscapes that I see. I love riding by different towns and different houses stuck in the middle of nowhere and just praying for those people and picturing what their lives must be like, especially in the remote areas of Utah, Colorado, Kansas, wherever. Well, this time of year, the safer bet seemed like to go south a little bit from St. Louis and then through Oklahoma, go through Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California. That was the plan. The first day went smoothly. Arrived in Amarillo in the rain. It was rainy. It was a little cool, but rain is good. And so, checking, I went to sleep, didn't check the weather before setting out at 3 a.m. again the next day. And the destination was Barstow, California. That's usually where we land, no matter which route we take. It's a good stopping place. It has several hotels, several places to eat. It has an outlet mall, which is a good place to stretch and walk to get some steps in before getting back in the car. And so as we set out at 3 in the morning as planned, and a couple hours down the road on the interstate, I-40 in New Mexico, we ran into a slowdown. Google Maps. We were told it was a 10-minute slowdown, but we were still on the fastest route. And this is where the story comes in. And I one of my pet peeves is sitting in traffic. It drives me insane. And when I'm watching the ETA on whatever device that I'm using and I'm seeing it get further and further away from the original ETA, it irritates me beyond words. When I saw the bumper to bumper traffic for as far as I could see and pulled up in my spot and stopped, something just told me, and I know it was God, we were going to be here a while. And I really don't know why, but I put it in the park and I just started looking at my phone, playing a few games on my phone, just kind of chilling, which is so not like me. I'm not really looking at the mileage, the ETA, the anything, just knowing that we were going to be here a while. There was some snow on the sides of the road. The road was clear. It wasn't snowing at the moment. It wasn't raining. There was no precipitation at the time. But I noticed there were tons of semi trucks. And I noticed in the truck to my right, because I was actually in the fast lane, I noticed the driver get up and go to the back of his cab. And being the daughter of a truck driver, I knew that he had some insight that I did not have, and that he felt comfortable enough to walk away from his steering wheel for a while because he was gone for a while. Like I know he went back and took a nap. Um, so again, I knew we were going to be there, and we tried Googling because I assumed there was an accident, a fatal accident, and that's why we were stopped because I know that happens. You are stopped for hours while the police do the investigation or whatever, but we had no idea. We tried Googling what's going on Interstate 40, east of Albuquerque or in the Santa Rosa, New Mexico area, and nothing came up. The only thing that really came up was that Interstate 25 was closed from up to the Colorado state line because of a snowstorm. But again, we Googled the weather, where you get weather information in that area, and nothing popped up. It was really bizarre. Another bizarre thing was the eastbound traffic. was moving, like not a lot. It was sparse. There were every now and then there'd be a car or two or a truck. So it was intriguing to say the least. It ended up we were in that particular spot for 6 hours. It didn't seem like 6 hours in some ways, and other ways it did. I never really, never been stopped in traffic for that long. And here's the thing that I learned that when and nothing was around us really. And even if there was, we would have to have walked through snow, and we weren't prepared for that to get to any kind of facility, restroom, or whatever. And if you're sitting for 6 hours, you're going to have some restroom facilities. So what do you do? What do you do if you're a female? If you're a male, it's kind of easy. But if you're a female, you have to be a little more inventive. You have to be a little more resourceful. And I won't go into any of the bathroom details, but the whole day was traumatic. And the bathroom goes in that list as well. Um, but humorous. It was humorous. And one day may tell someone, but we sort of vowed that for now, what happened on Interstate 40 while we were stopped stays in the car between the passengers and the driver. Finally, we saw some movement up ahead, and we were off. Like the traffic broke. There were lots of trucks and even a few cars broken down on the side of the road, and some not even on the side, some in the lane. It was sort of stressful driving, and we did manage to stop at the first restroom that we encountered because that was an important stop to make. But as we were driving, I think we were in the mountains. I think the elevation was like 5 or 6,000 feet. Um, Still didn't know exactly what had transpired. There were there was no evidence of an accident anywhere. And as we kept driving, we saw more snow. So then we started assuming it was due to weather. The roads were closed because they were clearing the roads, although the roads were clear where we were. So, about an hour down the road, we run into another slowdown, which we were informed was another 10-minute delay, but we were still on the shortest route. And we did come to a stop once again. This time, the sky was a stunning blue. There were no clouds. The sun was shining brightly, and there was snow on the landscape surrounding us. And it was really a beautiful thing to behold if we hadn't already been sitting in traffic for 6 hours. And just let me say that this did not fit in with the drive 14 hours the second day so that we could arrive in 5 hours the next day. Didn't fit in with that at all. I'm still not freaking out though, but as we come up to another standstill, and we were there sitting there for it ended up being another 2 hours, which is crazy to think about, but it was what it was. And I got a text from my son while we were sitting there at the second stop, and he it simply said, "What time do you plan to be here tomorrow?" Um, and I answered, "Not sure yet. Ran into a few issues. Why?" And he said he was hoping that we could pick up the photographer from his place and drop him off at the engagement, the proposal site. And my response was, absolutely. We're 20 hours of driving away from that destination. And we were going to land nowhere near Barstow or California. We were looking at Arizona, and it was going to be a hard, hard drive. And that's what we did. Once the traffic broke through the second time, we actually had a state, a sheriff that came down the shoulder of the emergency lane the wrong way on his megaphone. Every 5 or 6 cars, he would announce the interstate is now open. Be prepared to go. And so that's what we did. 20 minutes later, we went. And again, there were our trucks stalled, cars stalled. You were weaving in and out because they would be stopped in the middle of the fast lane, halfway off the slow lane on the the shoulder, there was still snow piled up everywhere. And we did find out there was a snowstorm that no one saw coming. And that so they weren't prepared. They weren't out clearing the roads. It just hit all of a sudden, which I guess happens in the mountains. But I was very grateful to be moving as a car should be on a cross country road trip. So we landed in Flagstaff, grabbed a shower, went to bed, and got up the next morning to complete the 9-hour drive. And because we're in different time zones, we ended up arriving at our hotel at noon with plenty of time to check in and do what we needed to do in order to pick up the photographer and deliver him to the proposal site. That was not how I envisioned. That was no way near what I had planned. And yes, this is a minor thing. It didn't alter anyone's lives, didn't change the proposal, it didn't change anything. Even if we hadn't have gotten there in time to deliver the photographer to the proposal site, the proposal still would have happened. Like it wasn't life changing, but it was a stressful event and it did not go the way we had planned. Um, and I pray before I leave that we will be protected and from animals that jump across the road because there are places where you're seeing deer carcasses every mile and a half, if not closer in some areas. Um, it wasn't how we envisioned. I prayed for a safe journey, for a timely journey, for me to be alert as I'm driving. And it appears that those prayers didn't get answered. It appears that an act of nature interfered, even though it was a small matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, you gotta wonder, you gotta stop. Like, why, when I prayed and when this was so important, such an important event for our family, it didn't go smoothly. It was actually the least smooth trip that we had taken thus far. And oh, I learned some things. I think I'll be better prepared next time for emergency situations. Maybe even allow more time, which seems ludicrous because it's already um, 32 hours of driving. Wow. And people think I'm crazy for doing it, that we're crazy, and they think we don't know about airplanes, and we do. I've flown. I prefer to drive. One day I won't be able to drive as I age. I know I won't always have that privilege, and I love it so much that I don't want to give it up just yet. So this trip just sort of prepared me, maybe to be more prepared. It gave me some insight and ways to be more prepared because there will be a wedding next year in California. There will be a shower next year in California. And my son will still live in California. So there will be other journeys. And I do like to see him 4 times a year, which sounds sad because I was used to seeing him every couple of weeks when he lived in the area. And let's stop there for now because I know I am not the only one who lives with the that have children that live in away, far away, or even away. I am blessed to have two of my children live close by. And it just makes a difference knowing that you can get in your car and in 20 minutes you can see your loved one. It doesn't take any planning. You don't have to check the weather. You just go. But when you have a child who lives away, or grandchildren, even I don't have grandchildren, it becomes more complicated. I talked with a few parents, and how they've told me it's not allowed. You can't. They've told their children you can't move away. You got to live in the community where I live, or I'm coming to your community. And I get it. Doesn't work that way, but I get it. It's not what we envisioned oftentimes. I've said it before that I love that my son is where he's at. I love that he lives in the area that he lives. San Luis Obispo is an amazing town. I love that he works at a place he loves. Slow City Church is an amazing, growing church. I just wish it was closer. And I know there are other parents who feel the same way, and not all parents. I'm just going out right now, and not all mothers. It seems more like a mother thing, but not all mothers feel this way. And that's totally okay. I don't have to understand it. You do you, I guess, and I'll do me. Um, and I will keep driving even though I can be stuck on an interstate for a ridiculous amount of time. I'm grateful for interstates. I'm grateful for vehicles that are safe and can make the trip. I'm grateful for the ability to do that. But sometimes life or trips or small things don't turn out the way you planned. We're entering the holiday season, and that's a can be a big setup, right? Like a lot of times holidays aren't what we envisioned. They're not those picture perfect scenarios that you see in all the commercials. Sometimes they don't go the way we planned for whatever reason. Um, and that's just want to encourage you to be okay with how it turns out. If you're trusting God with your life and if you're trusting God with the events of your life, then be okay with how it turns out, no matter how it turns out. And that's where I want to leave today. I hope your journeys are smooth, but if they're not, God is still God. I hope your holidays go as you envisioned. But if they don't, God is still God. I hope all the plans that you have made and will make for your life turn out exactly like you planned. But if they don't, God is still God. And they won't. None of those things won't. There are always unexpected things that will happen, have happened, and will continue to happen. God is still God, no matter what. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. He is God, and I am not. And that's a good thing. Thank you for joining me this week and for, listening to my story, which was a little more stressful than I let on, a little more traumatic than I care to talk about right now. But thanks for listening. I'll be back next week, and I hope you are too.